I remember reading a textbook for photography, the fine art of photography. It was a fine arts textbook talking about methods and approaches to artistic photography, and it had a fascinating chapter where the author said, look, we researched the hell out of this concept of composition. We went through all of the scientific literature, and it turns out that composition is just a cultural concept. There is no scientific basis through it whatsoever. And they went through all these different studies that people had done of sitting people down and measuring where their eyes looked, of testing the hypothesis presented by different theorists. Different theorists, really this is getting into art history and theory of modern art and what have you. Different ideas people had that the idea of good composition could be broken down to a specific scientific formula of what makes up the parts of a photograph or painting. And they concluded, look, we did the research and you can't. The sciences just don't tell us what we want to know about this topic. And yesterday I was looking at, we both read together actually this article, I'll give a link below the video, which is Direct Action Everywhere's 100th attempt to muse on, philosophize about, and reflect on social science research and its role in the future of vegan activism. Now, this is a good article by Direct Action Everywhere standards. A lot of DXE stuff I think is really garbage, and I give it credit above all else for keeping it real. It's not lying to you, it's not exaggerating their position, and a lot of their material I do find dishonest. First and foremost, it opens up by being honest about the fact that these scientific studies do not tell them what they want to know, do not give them the kind of conclusions they're looking for, do not give them the kind of evidence they're looking for, and even when they do provide some evidence, it's really questionable how applicable that evidence is to veganism. So if you've got evidence about a significantly different political movement, a movement that's advocating for an oppressed and downtrodden ethnic minority, can you really take those conclusions and apply them to veganism? How applicable, how comparable are these examples? But throughout, the number of studies they can appeal to are very, very limited. And as this article admits, many other articles do not, the conclusions of these scientific studies are themselves astoundingly vague and open to more than one interpretation. You can take it in more than one direction. They seem to be telling you very often that their own conclusions can hardly be used as recommendations for planning further option beyond very, very broad heuristic guidelines as to how to approach people and what have you. Toward the end of the article, there's a really interesting admission too, because this is coming from someone who still is a Direct Action Everywhere supporter, where this person says that they think they were too dismissive in the past of what they call a humanistic approach to activism. I think they use this. Humanistic activism, I think was the... Thank you. That's what she's here for. Humane education, I forgot. And what they mean by humane education, interestingly, is having relaxed conversations with people face-to-face on the doorstep. So not doing organized protests, not aggressive disruptions, not angry, emotionally overwrought forms of street theater, but of just talking to people in an open-minded way. So the interesting thing is, if you don't know the backstory, Direct Action Everywhere was really founded by Wayne Seong because of his frustration with exactly those methods. He felt that after years of handing out cookies and pamphlets and inviting people to attend documentary film nights, that was ineffective. He rejected what's here termed humane education, and he adopted instead this slightly radical method of disruption, etc. But disruption is their preferred term. So here instead, at the end of this article, after doing this survey of all of the scientific literature and basically telling us that science doesn't measure what we want to measure here, as with this question of the arts, what is good composition in a painting or a photograph? Maybe that's not a question the sciences can answer, right? What is effective activism? Maybe it's actually an inherently unscientific question, and therefore we're not going to find scientific answers. And what we come back to are actually exactly the sort of methods that Direct Action Everywhere rejects, and that they were very much founded with a mission to reject. Finally here, I want to mention I've had some email correspondence with an ex-member of DXE, a former supporter of Direct Action Everywhere, who stopped participating with them in about 2013. And I think the single most important reason she gave for why she stopped was simply the toll it was taking on her, what effect it was having on her emotionally as the protester, right? These emotionally overwrought, screaming outbursts, statements of rage and outrage and what have you, Some people feel awkward and feel they're ridiculous, and some people feel exhausted. And once you've done them 10 times, how is it going to feel the 11th time? How is it going to feel the 100th time, or what have you? I remember talking years ago with Henya about that, Henya Mania, well-known vegan YouTuber here. And, I just have to say, those are questions that are really worth asking. You shouldn't feel ashamed of that. You shouldn't feel self-indulgent. You shouldn't feel lazy. And there are a lot of videos out there trying to shame you and try to make you feel lazy because you're not going to a protest every Sunday. It was a hilarious one just put up by John Sakars, the legend. John Sakars. John Sakars can make anything creepy and disturbing.
You never do any activism.
I'm doing my part just by being vegan.
Being vegan isn't enough. We need to speak up for the animals, too.
So what's going to happen at this protest on Sunday? Are you going to yell at people and get arrested?
Well, sometimes I need to raise my voice to be heard, but if you're not comfortable doing that, you can just pass out leaflets and talk to people.
Okay, I'll hand out a few leaflets. We'll see how it goes.
I noticed you haven't been wearing that vegan t-shirt I bought you.
It was nice of you to buy that for me, but I don't think I'll wear it. If people find out I'm a vegan, they'll think I'm a weirdo.
John Sakars can make anything creepy and disturbing. He makes videos about vegan romance, about vegan dating, creepy and disturbing, and he makes discussions about effective activism, creepy and disturbing too. But anyway, John Sakars, I don't know if you can hear my girlfriend laughing in the background, but anyway, John Sakars had this video, and he's saying, it's not enough to just be a dietary vegan if you don't get out and protest every Sunday. Who is going to speak for the animals? Well, who indeed? Different people have different opportunities in life. I'm doing what I can from the circumstances I'm living in. I'm self-critical about that, but I'm currently teaching university students. I'm living in China, and one of the things I could do was writing a storybook and trying to get that illustrated and published, a storybook that directly addresses and propounds veganism. Somebody else is going to be an architect, someone who's made a lot of money in the tech sector, someone who, in terms of their profession, in terms of their education, has different options, and somebody else is going to be working a full-time job in a factory, and so on and so forth. But if I'm being all the way real with you, if I'm being all the way honest with you, when I look at Direct Action Everywhere, I see this as a quest that tried to cynically employ social science research to justify a preconceived notion they already have of what effective activism is supposed to be, of what a street protest is supposed to be, of what progress in any social justice movement is supposed to be. And they think of veganism as a social justice movement, whereas I do not. And I think in the end, we have this kind of bitter irony that social science research does not support and never did support the strategic and tactical decisions that they made. And conversely, the toll that their approach has on the members themselves would tend to invalidate it. If this is just something emotionally exhausting for the protesters themselves, keeping it all the way real, whether you're a factory worker or an architect, or you manage to make some money out of trading, internet-based stocks on the stock market, no matter what position you're in life, age 14 to 64, I actually cannot imagine that you don't have a better option than employing the tactics that Direct Action Everywhere employs.
It's not food, it's violence.
I can't imagine you don't have a better option than running onto a baseball field at a stadium, being arrested, thrown in the back of a police van, running on the baseball field with a poster saying "Go Vegan," which is a real tactic they've done. I can't imagine you don't have a better option than flying to China, stealing a dog from a dog meat festival, and then going to prison, at least briefly. I don't know if they just spent the night in prison, getting arrested. I can't imagine that you don't have a better option than the option they're presenting you with, no matter who you are.
Peacefully disrupt the violence.
This is not peaceful.
No, you come to it. Hello. No, you need to. It's not food, it's violence. You can't touch her. That's harassment.
I'm not touching her.
Thank you. Don't touch her.
Right now. I really want you to call police right now.
It's not food. It's violence.
And if you take a look at the link below this article, you'll see, I mean, this article gives you an honest set of reflections. But the bottom line is the social sciences never supported the decisions they're making. They never could. They never will support them. And when you're looking around in these murky and indecisive conclusions that social science research presents, in many cases not even applicable to veganism, it really just seems that we're looking in the wrong place for these answers. We're asking questions that are fundamentally unscientific, in the same way that the fine arts may be looking for something that the hard sciences or geometry or what have you, or even psychology can't tell them when they're trying to pin down what is the difference between good and bad composition.
À-bas-le-ciel.